Welcome back to another episode of ACRP TV. Today, our spotlight on the competitive advantage of diversity. And we've got a great guest with us today, Otis Johnson, who's the Vice President and Product Line Executive at ERT. And we're going to talk about some important and some tough issues that have been plaguing this industry for a long time, namely the lack of diversity in the patient population and the workforce population. And we at ACRP and others think they're inextricably linked. The moral and ethical imperatives are clear about improving diversity, the reasons to do it. But we're going to talk today with Otis a little bit more about the competitive advantage of diversity. So Otis, let's just jump right in. And if you could talk to me a little bit about, broadly speaking from a philosophical standpoint, and I know you've got some sort of granular examples, but why is diversity not only morally and ethically the right thing to do, but also just smart from a competitive standpoint?
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for having me on your show. So diversity is really important from a competitive standpoint, just by the fact that having different perspectives, contribute ideas and refine ideas is likely to give you a better outcome, whether it's a product or a service. Just basically having broad input from different worldviews, different perspective is likely to yield a better product. But beyond that, the industry we operate in, clinical trials and tech that supports clinical trials, the customers are demanding diversity, and for good reason. So not only the fact that diversity in general tend to deliver better products, but we have to respond to customer demands. And in some instances, it's a requirement for you to do business, for you to have a focus on diversity.
Interesting. Now, and what I like about what ERT is doing, among other things, is it's important to raise this as an issue. It's important to talk about it. But you guys are walking the walk a bit. In 2017, you told me you set up a women's leadership network. And then earlier this year, you've established a diversity council at ERT with aggressive metrics and consequences for not hitting those metrics. So can you talk a little bit about that diversity council and some of your goals and if there have been early achievements? I know it's early days still.
Yeah, absolutely. So ERT has always had a focus on diversity. And as you pointed out, we started a focus with the Women's Leadership Network. And that was born out of the fact that we had roughly equal numbers of women and men in the company. Yet when you looked at leadership, there was less representation of women in leadership. So that program was specifically designed to create more equity in that space in terms of the percentage of women in leadership. So we have specific metrics and targets around that, and we have programs designed to help create that equity. And we've had some early successes in terms of changing the metrics. But earlier this year, with all the social injustice that you've seen played out on TV, we decided to expand that concept a bit. And that's where the Diversity Council was born. We wanted to create this umbrella structure that would house other affinity groups that are focused on diversity and inclusion within the company. So at the same time we launched the Diversity Council, we also launched a People of Color Network. Now, the People of Color Network has a slightly different issue that we're trying to address. Because while we had enough women in the company, we're in a situation now where we don't have enough people of color in the company. So that is one of the initial focus, and we have some metrics and goals around that. And we're also looking at what happens to those people once we bring them into the company. So we're looking at how we can support people of color in terms of their advancement and development within the company.
Well, these are exciting initiatives. And as I said at the outset, I'm just excited to talk to you because you guys are really doing something in a hands-on way rather than just words. Words are important, but they're not that much without action behind them. And you guys are taking action. Let me ask you this before I let you go, sort of a broader question. I alluded to this at the beginning. This has been a difficult issue for the clinical trial industry, not for lack of effort necessarily, but relative lack of success in terms of broadening the workforce and broadening the patient population. Do you feel any new optimism as you look ahead to the next few years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing to foster the optimism that I want to share with you. So when we announced the formation of the Diversity Council and also the People of Color Network, which we announced around the same time, we asked for volunteers across the company to participate in delivering on these objectives that we set. And we got an overwhelming response globally. Initially, we were thinking of starting this in the US and then expanding it. Because of the response that we got, we decided to launch a global initiative because everyone was interested in how do we create this type of equity that we see. And when we look at the customers that we serve, when we meet with them, we're seeing this focus on diversity on their side as well. So we have to figure out how do we reflect what we're seeing in the industry as well.
Fantastic. We've been speaking here with Otis Johnson, Vice President and Product Line Executive at ERT, with some really exciting initiatives. This has been ACRP TV Spotlight on the competitive advantage of diversity. Thank you, Otis, for joining us, and thank all of you.
Thank you.